Indiana. That's what they call him.
The best player in Indiana. I've actually heard quite a bit about him from Kyle and of course Pramawat. But it's funny that his claim to fame is that he beat Azul, Pram, and Sablehouse at League Cups.
Yeah. So Indianapolis, the Indianapolis area is so chock full of great Pokemon players. There's Azul and Michael Pramawat, both top 16. Azul, number 1 in North America, live together. In that same apartment complex, Kyle Sablehouse lives.
Right.
Aaron Tarbell, who top-aided the North American International Championship, is also from Indianapolis. It's just, that area is so condensed. And then you have Brian Miller, who apparently destroys them all at local tournaments.
All right, so we are setting up here. As you see, both of these players are drawing their opening hand of 7 cards. And I believe that no player has to take a mulligan, so we are about to see them start to set up their prizes. Hopefully we don't have any bad prizes for either of these players, as we see a Tapu Lele here. And that's about it with an Acerola, I guess. Also a pretty key card there. Now, on the other hand, we see a Zygarde prize as well as a Rockruff and an Oranguru. But, yeah, this is kind of a little bit rough for Chris.
Yeah, so looks like players are getting ready. We see Brian there with a Wimpod start, it looks like. He is playing the Zoroark Golisopod deck, the variant of Zoroark that we did show up at the North American International Championship that I think has fallen out of favor since then. I think if you had to rank the Zoroark decks going into this tournament, I think most players would have put it last or close to it. I think Zoroark Garbodor, the Zoroark Magcargo control decks are a lot more favored at this point.
I would tend to agree with you. Now, Christopher is the first player starting the game off here, and he looks to be having a very powerful start as he played at Brooklet Hill, has 3 bench Pokemon, and now plays a Cynthia. Of course, he has a Choice Band attached to his active Buzzwole GX, as well as a Fighting Energy on it. So, has not skipped a beat. This is a very powerful turn 1, and if you're going first, this is about as good as it's ever going to get. And we also see that Remoraid and Rockruff are both on the bench here for Christopher. So these are the exact Pokemon he wants to have on his first turn of the game.
Yeah, very important to not only start with an aggressive start. You have the Buzzwole GX, you have the Baby Buzzwole, you have Energy, Choice Band, whatever, but you're also getting that set up for the future. You have the Rockruff on the board. You have the Remoraid that can evolve next turn to smooth out your draws. So pretty much exactly what he was hoping for on these opening turns.
Now, it's on Brian here to try to match him, and right away we see that he has a Bridget. It seems like every time we see this this deck on stream, this deck being any Zoroark deck, we see them have a turn 1 Bridget, which is exactly what they want to have. Whenever you miss your Bridget on turn 1, you just feel like your deck is way more vulnerable to aggression from your opponent, vulnerable to Guzmas, vulnerable to a lot of other things. So it's very key to see a Bridget on turn 1. And Brian did not skip a beat there. Absolutely plays that right away. Gets to look through his deck, gets a really good idea of what might be prized. And with a Zoroark in hand plus a couple of Ultra Balls, you have to believe that his hand is very well set up to have a very powerful early game.
Yeah, these turn 1 Bridget is kind of the play you see from every Zoroark deck. Zoroark likes to be in numbers. Not only does the Riotous Beating want you to have more bench Pokemon, but also you want to have as many outs to trade as possible.
Now, Brian is playing a Tapu Lele, Wonder tagging in a Professor Sycamore into his hand. So he's doing this before passing his turnover. Interesting. And he does actually attach Double Colorless Energy plus retreats his Wimpod so that he can get the first hit in on this Buzzwole. So Buzzwole is going to take 60 damage before he gets to attack.
He's going aggressive with the energy drive.
Yeah, that explains why he made the play that he did to try to find a Tapu Lele before being able to use his supporter. And, of course, that's so that he can get some sort of aggression going against this Buzzwole. He knows that he does not want to attack with Zoroark against the Buzzwole. So a very powerful first turn here for Brian as he gets to deal 60 damage, which is not irrelevant against this Buzzwole before it's been able to attack. Now, Christopher does get to start his second turn of the game. He already has a couple of bench basic Pokemon that he wants to evolve. Definitely that Remoraid, but it looks like the Lycanroc will be the first Pokemon to evolve, and it will be able to use Bloodthirsty Eyes if he so chooses. And he does. He gets one of the Zorwas that is safely on the bench outside of the safety of it of that bench, and it becomes the active Pokemon. And now he does play as Professor Sycamore. Does Christopher has not found the Octillery until now.
Turn.
Yeah.
So yeah, the Bloodthirsty Eyes on the Zoroark, he's not going to knock out the Tapu Lele. He wants to put pressure on these Zoroarks. Again, the Zoroark deck relies on having a lot of Pokemon in play. It relies on having several Zoroarks in play. So when you can take these easy knockouts, spread some damage around the board, exactly what you want to be doing. He also has that energy, of course, on the Lycanroc, so he can start threatening an attack on the next turn. He has the Octillery. He just kind of has it all.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And being able to get that Octillery into play as well is just really important for him. So now he's no longer vulnerable to any kind of
late game end shenanigans.
Yeah, late game end.
Dead drawing in general.
Any kind of real disruption out of the Zoroark deck right now.
Yeah, the Octillery in play, I mean, we've talked all weekend basically about how basically every successful deck in the format needs to play Octillery, Oranguru, or Zoroark. You need something on the board that you can get out of bad ends with. You just want that consistent draw power.
Brian does have a Field Blower considering using it, and he does do so. Gets rid of the Floatstone on the Octillery plus the Brooklet Hill. Leaves the Choice Band on the Buzzwole with 60 damage on it. And now he plays the Sycamore of his own. Now, the thing is here, because Christopher did take that prize, and he does go down to 5 prizes, by the way, he also got to deal 30 damage onto that Zoroark on the bench. So now that Zoroark is going to be a much easier knockout coming into the future turns. Wimpod is still waiting in the wings hoping to become a Golisopod and start to get some aggression going that deals more than 60 damage from that energy drive, plus trying to not show any kind of weakness that the Zoroark GX would. But we do not have a Golisopod out of Brian yet.
No Golisopod, but we do have that energy on the Wimpod. A Golisopod, a really powerful attacker, but it looks like Brian just actually has to go ahead and do another 60 with energy drive. Not exactly where he wanted to be this turn. But he does have the 2 Zoroarks in play. He does have access to 2 trades now in the future. And the action is back on Christopher.
Yeah, Tapu Lele, slow and steady with that energy drive, dealing another 60 damage, now totaling up to 120 damage on this Buzzwole. And now Buzzwole actually just deals 60 damage of its own to that Tapu Lele. And now 30 damage gets applied onto the Wimpod with the energy on it. So we start to see exactly how their game plans are starting to flesh out. And Evo Soda here, very timely Evo Soda, going to find the first Golisopod of the game here for Brian. Of course, evolving the already damaged Golisopod. A second Evo Soda will probably find us another Golisopod.
All right, no Golisopods going into his turn, but he just finds 2 immediately. Golisopod, a really, really aggressive attacker. Of course, that first impression attack for 1 single energy. If Golisopod became active this turn, it is 120 for just 1 single energy.
And it has 210 hit points, which means that it's very difficult to get knocked out, especially when you're not at 4 prizes.
It's also important in this matchup that Golisopod hits Lycanroc for weakness. So that's can be a pretty big deal. There's a lot of times where Dangerous Rogue is how you can finish a game, or it can maybe be a really good mid-game play to take a few prizes and just do a bunch of damage.
So he's debating attaching a double colorless energy onto his Golisopod with the grass energy on it, and he chose not to. He chose to put it onto the one with no energy on it. And now he's going to play a Guzma, bringing up that Golisopod with that 30 damage on it with the grass, and that is going to mean a knockout on this on this Lycanroc. And that's going to be pretty big for him. But remember, at the same time, he will be going down to 4 prizes, which is very dangerous when your opponent plays cards such as Beast Ring.
Yep, so just like we talked about, Lycanroc threat has been eliminated for just 1 energy from the Golisopod. But now we are in the point in the game where Christopher's Beast Rings are turned on. We'll see what he can do with that. It's also important to note that Sledgehammer is turned on as well. So your opponent having 4 prizes means a lot for the any kind of Buzzwole variant.
Right. Now,
you never want your Pokemon to be knocked out, but it's kind of where you want to be. The game is going to naturally progress to that point, and these turns are where you can really take advantage of.
Looking for a Choice Band, by the way, does not find it yet. He wants that Choice Band to be able to one-hit KO this Golisopod. He's already dealing 150 damage with the Sledgehammer. 30 damage away from getting the KO. Plays the Field Blower to get rid of a Choice Band here. Does he have any other ways to draw cards? We see that he has an Oranguru on the bench. And, of course, he has a the artillery here, so he will be able to draw additional cards. But he is desperately looking for that choice band right now. Will he find it? That's the question of the turn. B-String would be no slouch either, by the way.
Yeah, let's see. We're seeing a Super Rod from Christopher, just putting some resources back in.
All right, looks like we went for an Abyssal Hand for 2 cards, and he did not hit it yet. He is going to be playing a Max Elixir, and the Max Elixir will find him another energy. It's no B-String, but at least he is going to get some sort of energy acceleration going right now.
Yeah, this is fine. I mean, he's setting up his board. Got, one fresh attacker, one that has some damage on it. He has some energy on some different threats. Is going to miss the knockout here, looks like, and just do a Sledgehammer, bringing that Glyspot up to 180 damage. Would have liked, because it had already hit the 30 on it before, would have liked to have, like you said, a choice band or something, but just couldn't quite get there.
Yeah, getting that choice band would have been crucial here, as he would have been able to go down to 3 prizes. But unfortunately for him, he did not find it, and he did spend that beast energy. Remember, it's not like his turn didn't come at a big expense. And now we see that max potion out of Brian. That's exactly what Brian wants to see here. He completely restores the hit points of a very, very heavily damaged Glycopod here, removing 180 damage from it at the low cost of a single energy.
But we have basically the common, I think, Zorak Glycopod puzzle, just going to get an energy, a way to attack, and then a Guzma. Oh, we have a Float Stone on the active.
So crucial. What a powerful turn here out of Brian. Now we're going to see that Guzma, and of course, going to bring up that fresh Glycopod with 3 energy on it.
Yeah, we're really looking, Brian rather, is just really looking to finish the game here. He only has 2 prizes left. That's 1 big knockout. He's a fresh Glycopod, fully built up. It seems he's just in a dominating position, and I can see why all the Indiana players fear him so much.
Yeah, no kidding. Brian Miller here just absolutely crushing through this game. He is down to 2 prizes remaining, but, I mean, think about Christopher's board position. He only has so many energies and so many attackers available to him, and he still has to get 5 prizes against these super high hit point Glycopods. I do not envy Christopher here.
And we do see the Buzzwole GX with 2 energy on it, and the Buzzwole rather with 2 energy on it. Looks like that's going to come active. Just do a Sledgehammer.
That'll only deal 60 there. Actually 40 because he armor pressed.
Looks like we're seeing a couple of trades here. I think at this point, Brian really wants to just try to solidify things. He's pretty close to winning. He would love some sort of a Guzma play, but I think he just really wants to make sure that he doesn't mess anything up, that nothing bad happens to him here.
So the tail of this matchup is he does have a Guzma in hand, by the way, so he could potentially use that. The tail of this matchup has basically been Glycopod is your answer to the Lycanroc, and of course, all of your Pokemon are your answer to Zoroark. Who is going to be able to take advantage of the weakness first? And in this particular case, Brian did with that very timely first impression against that Lycanroc. And from that point on, it was just very difficult for Christopher to get any kind of aggression going. Of course, he missed his B-String turn and all of that good stuff. So a very, very clean first game here for Brian so far.
All right, and there's a knockout going down to a single prize left, Crossing Cut GX, sending up that Tapu Lele. 5 prizes to 1, only a Buzzwole GX on the board. We know that Brian has it all in hand. It looks like there was just some confusion there, but all cleared up now.
Yeah, it was just Crossing Cut GX to promote the...
What they were talking about was the Parallel City doing less damage.
Okay,
but was not relevant in that situation.
All right, so now Christopher can he find a way out of this? And if so, at what cost? We do see a Guzma in Christopher's hand, and of course, it will be played. Looks like he's bringing up that heavily damaged or mildly damaged Glycopod. It still has 170 hit points remaining, but lucky for Christopher, he will be able to knock it out this turn.
Yeah, I think as long as we're not missing something, I think this is just the game for Brian. I think he has Guzma in hand, and He just needs, there's a big knockout on that Glycopod. He immediately sends up that Zoroark. He's going to slam the Guzma down and take the game.
Yep.
So game 1 goes to Brian Miller. Very, very impressive showing with that Glycopod deck. Again, Zoroark, Glycopod, all the Zoroark decks are reasonable. They're all very good. But Zoroark Glycopod is the one I think that people were kind of down on going into this tournament. It's had good showings ever since it's existed. It's been a fine deck, but I think not that many people actually wanted to play it here. But, Brian is proving, hey, I'm still using this strategy. Glycopod is really, really aggressive, does not cost a whole lot of resources, just a single energy most of the time. You want to prioritize some Guzmas, and he's getting there and maybe making top 8 of the World Championship.
Yeah, he just beat the second most popular deck in this entire field very convincingly. Obviously it was just one game, and yes, he got the first knockout against a Lycanroc here. But at the same time, we got to see the power of just exactly how strong this Zoroark Glycopod deck still is. And it hits so hard for a single energy. Being able to deal 240 damage to a Lycanroc GX is just, if that's not going to win you the game, I don't know what will.
One of the big problems can be basically we saw in that game, Lycanroc can be a real liability when you're just like, okay, well, I need to Bloodthirsty Eyes, and I need to set up this, kind of secondary attacker, but it's just so easy. All it takes is a Guzma Glycopod for this thing to just be wiped, and that's 2 prizes.
Now, the second game is getting started right away, actually.
Players
take no time. Yeah, taking no time shuffling their decks up and starting up on game 2. We're only about 15 minutes into this match, so game 1 did not take very long at all. And we'll have to wait and see if game 2 is as blisteringly fast as game 1 was, as, of course, Christopher will be going first here as he lost game 1 and he chose to go first. Now, Chris, it did have a very powerful turn 1, if you remember, game 1, but it didn't really matter as Brian just had everything he needed.
Yeah, I just had, early Zoroarks to draw cards, early Glycopods. And it just, a
couple double colors, by the way. Couple double colors prized for Brian. Zygarde
in the prizes again. All right. Won't be seeing Zygarde this game. And we are kicking things off. Looks like a Buzzwole GX in the active position for Chris Wilkinson here. Looking to tie the match up and force a game 3.
Chris starts this game off with an Ultra Ball. Has a Rockruff already on the bench, and a Buzzwole GX is his active Pokemon. Will Chris find himself a Tapu Lele, or does he not need any supporters this turn? Still has a couple of cards remaining in his hand. Finds a Remoraid, so it seems like he also has a supporter for backup. So once again, Christopher finding the right cards at the right time. Exactly what you want to be seeing here if you're Christopher for your first turn.
Yeah, these are the first turns that you want.
Has a Max Elixir as well. Wow. Can he hit? If he hits his Max Elixir, that could be very powerful for him. Getting that getting that Rockruff nice and powered up. He does not, though. Max Elixir misses.
Will not be seeing a turn 2 Dangerous Rogue this game, as we see that Diancie Prism Star come down, and, 7 new cards. All right, and once again, Chris Wilkinson drawing very solidly. I mean, he has the Octillery in hand. He has a Diancie in play. Doesn't have a Baby Buzz yet, but not that big of a deal. And we'll see if Brian can match him.
Yeah, he found pretty much everything he needed, including an energy. Both basic Pokemon that you want to have on your bench. So now it's on Brian. Will Brian have a powerful turn 1 as well? It seems like he's got that Ultra Ball, so that Ultra Ball will find him a Tapu Lele if necessary, so that he can get that Bridget. Already eyes that Bridget up, so no doubt we'll be finding a Tapu Lele right now.
Yep, Ultra Ball, Wonder Tag for Bridget. I imagine a similar setup as last time. I don't know what's in his hand, but 2 Zoroark, Wimpod is the usual choice here. Could consider taking 2 Wimpod as well, but either way, some combination of 3 basics hitting the board does go with 2 Zoroark and just a single Wimpod.
If you notice, by the way, that Ultra Ball did discard a Zorua. So if you're Chris, you definitely take note here. And if you can Guzma up one of the Zoruas on this turn, then you know that Brian's going to struggle to get more than 2 Zoroark into play this game. Not impossible, but with 2 of them in the discard pile, it will make things a little bit more difficult for him to find a 3rd Zoroark. throughout the match.
And no energy attachment, just passing the turn back to Christopher. There's an Octillery.
Yeah, right away finds the Octillery. Still no real aggression out of Christopher as he plays a strong energy and actually just Cynthia. So we're not going to see a Guzma this turn. Could still see a Lycanroc though. And if that Lycanroc does bring up a Zorua or even a Wimpod, this could be pretty nice for Christopher. Another strategy that these Buzzwole decks go for is to start targeting down the Wimpods if your opponent only has one in play, so your opponent can never really take advantage of your weakness against or of your weakness with Lycanroc. So we could definitely see that. At the same time, he might just not have the resources available to him. It seems like, well, he has an Ultra Ball though.
Yeah, so Brooklet Hill was kind of the missing piece of the puzzle to find that baby Buzzwole. Just kind of that kind of sets him up with everything he needs. He has his primary attacker, backup attacker. He has the draw power from Octillery, of course. He can even get a Lycanroc here if that's what he wants.
I definitely think you want that. I think taking down the Wimpod would be huge. Even taking down a Zorua if you choose to try to limit your opponent's trades would be very powerful. I think just about anything outside of knocking out the Oranguru is going to be a powerful play. And sure enough, goes for that Lycanroc. Bloodthirsty Eyes brings up the Wimpod. And with your opponent only having one Wimpod in play and already having a full bench, you know your opponent's going to struggle to get a Golisopod going this game. So we could be seeing a completely different game, too, than what we saw game one. As with Golisopod gone as a potential attacker, that's going to force your opponent into attacking with Zoroarks with that fighting weakness.
Golisopod GX comes up the top of the deck for Brian, but not going to do too much.
Basically taunting him.
Yeah, just going to go ahead and immediately trade it away to that Zoroark. Evo Soda going to put another Zoroark GX into play. So Brian going to have plenty of draw power available to him this turn. But he needs to catch back up. Obviously only one prize has been taken, but the board states do look pretty different here.
Yeah, I think the real big story here is the fact that there's no Wimpod in play. Of course, Zoroark still powerful, trades just as powerful as ever, but with your fighting weakness playing a key role here, you really want to be able to attack with Golisopod, and you start to wonder if Brian maybe should have gone for double Zorua, double Wimpod in play. And I mean, of course, that would have also had its own set of weaknesses, but maybe it would not have been as big a weakness as having no Wimpod in play on your second turn.
And there are the full 3 Zoroark GXs. You said it'd be difficult, but he's going to prove you wrong as a turn 2 triple Zoroark GX comes down.
Now, we do see a pretty nice hand here from Brian. He has a Wimpod if he chooses to play it. He has tons of options available to him, and he chooses to attach a double colorless energy onto the Tapu Lele. Now, Tapu Lele is not going to attack quite yet, as Parallel City is the first card to get played here. And now Brooklet Hill goes away, but so do 2 bench Pokemon here from Christopher.
Yeah, it's actually a little bit awkward there. You want all of the Pokemon, basically, but you just kind of have to choose 2. And Oranguru can be replaced by Octillery for the most part, and Diancie is just kind of the most expendable one. And we see the similar kind of opening turns as last game with Energy Drive from that Tapu Lele. One of the strange things about playing against the Buzzwole decks as a Zoroark player is you can't really afford to expose your Zoroark and, do an attack that's not going to actually take a knockout, right?
This is a huge Guzma, by the way, as now we're going to see the baby Buzzwole become the attacker, which gets big Buzzwole GX out of harm's way. And in addition, we're going to see that Wimpod once again get knocked out before it can evolve into a Golisopod. So the same story is being told here by Christopher, as he's not allowing Brian to get that weakness advantage going early in the game for game 2, and he's going to force Brian into an uncomfortable position. When your main attacker is Tapu Lele, you cannot possibly expect to have it carry you the whole way. You're going to eventually have to find another option. And actually, I did forget, because the Diancie's gone.
Diancie, yep.
Yeah, because the Diancie's gone, and of course, maybe Christopher forgot that as well. I'm not quite sure, but there's only 60 damage onto the Wimpod. Of course, that's better than nothing, as Wimpod is the active Pokemon, so you can't. So your opponent's not going to be able to first impression for heavy damage this turn.
Yeah, it's just awkward having your Wimpod or even Golisopod with no energy in the active position. You really want to exploit first impression. He doesn't even have a Glyspot in his hand. Although he does have Evo Soda and Max Potion. He does have a few things going on, but I think it was a fine play from Christopher.
Yeah, it was still a good play. Not letting the Glycopod be able to first impression right now is actually really important. And actually, he might still be pulling that off, as now we're going to see a Guzma.
So the issue,
Buzzwole GX.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go for it here because I don't think I don't know how many trades he's used, but he doesn't have any grass energy in his hand. So we may just be seeing the Tapu Lele attack at the Buzzwole here.
Well, right now we're still seeing him keep setting up. I don't actually know if he's used any trades this turn yet. So he still has quite a few options available to him, but he could very well attack with Tapu Lele right now. It's a comfortable spot to be in if you're Brian, because your Tapu Lele doesn't have any damage on it. And actually, look at that.
This is how you kind of get punished here if you're Christopher for making that play, is that your opponent just has the response of
the double puzzle.
The double puzzle is big here, allowing that Zoroark to attack. And again, that was, as I was saying, that was the downside, is that now that Wimpod is a Glycopod, it has no damage on it, got moved to the bench. It can first impression in the future. Didn't quite work out the way he wanted for him. Looks like counter catcher and double colorless.
Right. So here's the good news for Christopher, is your opponent's now down to 4 prizes, which means you have a very easy knockout available to you. You're not going to struggle to do that at all. Brian knows this, but still, getting that Buzzwole GX out of play and out of harm's and just not having to worry about that for the foreseeable future is very important for him. Now, at this point, Christopher is, and this may be wishful thinking, but he still has one bench spot available to him. So if he can find another Buzzwole GX or even a baby Buzzwole at this point and a Beast Ring, he will be able to set up additional attackers, and he will be able to set himself up for a potentially easy route to a victory, as long as he gets what he needs. Now, I do not see a Beast Ring right now, and that could be very important.
So Christopher only plays one Beast Ring, just as a concession to the fact that he has Lycanrocs, he has Zygarde, he has the one Zygarde EX. He's second with Lycanroc. He just doesn't. Beast Ring, while very powerful, is also very conditional. Not only can you only play it on certain turns of the game, it can also only go on to Ultra Beast. So he will still have a knockout, of course, with the Sledgehammer here. But he's chosen to take kind of a less outwardly aggressive, hopefully more consistent type of deck list.
Yeah, very interesting here, as Christopher does go down to 3 prizes, is not going to be struggling to take those prizes, obviously, as that Zoroark GX knew that it was kind of sacrificing itself for the greater good there. But now Brian, no energy in play right now, but he does have the Glycopod with no damage on it. And of course, we see a Rockruff on the bench, as well as a Lycanroc GX with an energy on it. So now at this point, we're looking for some Guzmas here for Brian, so that he can start knocking out these Lycanrocs. That's something that's kind of worrying me if I'm Christopher. Like when you go for your third and final bench spot to be another Rockruff, then you're kind of setting your opponent up to get 4 very easy prizes in the near future.
Yeah, it's an interesting play because, again, as I mentioned in between games, I think the effect is so powerful you just can't ignore it.
Sure.
But it also does present a liability. This also turns on the counter catcher, as you can see on your screen, in Brian's hand.
So now counter catcher brings up the Lycanroc, and a Professor Sycamore just hoping to draw an energy here, grass energy. I do not see it yet. Actually, I don't see it at all.
Oh, looks like he missed on the grass energy.
Actually, it looks like he completely missed. Just a bunch of parallels.
A bunch of parallel cities.
Oh, wow. Bridget's.
Literally unplayable card at this point in the game. And it looks like, he's just going to have to go ahead and retreat into that Oranguru and pass the turn.
Brian with that poker face saying, oh, no big deal. This happens. And it just promotes the Oranguru before passing. So just about the best thing that could have happened to Christopher did. And that's his opponent counter-captured and set himself up for a big-time knockout and just was not provided with the energy that he needed. So now a Guzma is likely going to bring up that Glycopod, I believe. Oh, no, he's actually going to go for the Zoroark.
Yeah, you're going to bring up the Zoroark and just take the knockout here and go down to a single prize. He's just saying, all right, now, you were aggressive last game. Now I'm the aggressor here. I have one prize left. Can you deal with this?
So he's taking advantage of the fact that Brian will still have 4 prizes remaining.
Yes.
The thing is here that now Brian does have another shot at Guzmaing up the Lycanroc or counter-capturing up the Lycanroc or something along those lines. If he manages to pull that off, then we're going to see only a single energy in play here for Christopher, and that's going to be, of course, the Beast Energy, but it could be very difficult for him to pull off the final prize. And Guzma here, just exactly as Brian wrote it up, basically just a turn later, as now First Impression knocks out that Lycanroc and takes away 2 energy from Christopher here.
Yep, and something very, very smart that Brian did there was play Parallel City, limiting his bench to get rid of that easy prize in the Oranguru. So now he only has 3 big GXs in play. Christopher is left with a single prize, but also a single energy on the board.
Just the 2 prizes remaining for Brian are still the double colorless energies. Brian has got to be feeling very unlucky at this point.
Yeah, unfortunate placement of prizes there as Christopher considers whether or not to attach to the Buzzwole, just kind of saying, all right, how much do I want to spread this out a bit? Do I think I can get a big swing around off of this maybe in the future? Just trying to determine what his game plan is going to be, as he only needs to take 1 more prize.
Yeah. So how do you get this final prize? I mean, your Buzzwole is dealing 80 damage with a Sledgehammer, which is, I mean, that's no joke right there, right? I guess if you get a Choice Band plus a Guzma.
Yeah, Choice Band Guzma.
Choice Band plus plus Lycanroc. So there's the Choice Band. Does he find the Lycanroc? No Lycanroc yet. I don't think we've seen an Abyssal Hand yet, though.
The good thing about this turn, at least for Christopher, is that he has no GXs in play, so Brian can't just kind of win the game straight up here. All right, there's that 3rd energy off the Max Elixir onto the Buzzwole.
Okay, so now with that 3rd energy, I think, yeah, of course, you have the Floatstone and you just need the Lycanroc.
Yeah, I don't think he actually has a way to search Pokemon out.
I believe he still has an Abyssal Hand available to him.
Okay.
He can play the Brooklet Hill.
Looks like he's debating whether or not he wants to Brooklet Hill.
So, if he hasn't Abyssal Handed yet, then I definitely like to see the Brooklet Hill here. Do we have there's no Lycanroc in the deck, man.
No way.
There's a Super Rod, though, and I don't know if I saw any Ultra Balls.
Yeah, no way to hit it there. Looks like he is going to Abyssal Hand. Guzma and Strong Energy are the draws.
So now I'm starting to wonder if that Max Elixir should have gone onto the Buzzwole, or if it should have been onto the Rockruff.
There's some confusion over the coin flip, but I think they're going to have that one stand.
Okay.
So we're seeing a swing around here.
1 heads here, so he's going to be dealing, 150 damage?
8, 11, 13, 14, 17, 19. Or 18, rather.
Okay. Oh, yeah, the Choice Band, sorry. Okay. That's still a very powerful turn. Remember, no GXs or EXs in play here for Christopher, so Brian cannot win on this turn. But knocking out that Buzzwole would be really big for him.
Yeah, he can't win on this turn, but he can eliminate a big threat in that Buzzwole, the only real threat that Christopher has right now. But, of course, that the damage on that Golisopod is also huge, so it'll be interesting to see how this turn is navigated.
I mean, he needs to have like an Acerola max potion type of deal, plus, I mean, that's the big one. Acerola max potion, plus a knockout, obviously.
Yeah, it's going to go ahead and take the knockout and switch to that Tapu Lele. Does get the knockout off of the double colorless, but there's the Guzma Strong Energy, and Christopher Wilkinson is going to tie this right back up. So a lot of back and forth there. A lot of came down to the wire. 1 or 2 prizes for both players. I think that's how a lot of these matchups are going to go. You have such these kind of explosive attackers with, well, sure, he only has a Buzzwole, but Then, oh man, what, did he hit Deancey, Buzz, Beast Energy, Choice Band? And same thing on the other side, too, with Glisopod. You can go, oh, well, just as a Wimpod. Oh, never mind, it's Glisopod first impression now. Guzman, my weakest thing. Choice Band, that's a huge amount of damage.
We saw when Brian won, he won very convincingly. And then when Chris won, it definitely wasn't as convincing. It was a lot more back and forth. Now, the thing is, I think this game was decided as early as turn 1. When Brian went for the choice of getting 3 Zoro in play and only a single Wimpod, Christopher took advantage of that. And he put himself in a position where he was not going to get steamrolled by the Glisopod early on. And by the time the Glisopod came out, he was already in a winning position to where he could get his last few prizes without getting, without the Glisopod really running wild yet. And that's definitely what ended up happening. Now, of course, sometimes you can't prevent that kind of a setup from yourself when you're in Brian's shoes. But I'll be interested to see if he goes for the same similar type of setup. Of course, going first is going to be huge for him. It puts you in a much, much better position most of the time to be able to get your evolutions out without any real danger. And Brian going first will be a key factor in the determining game here. Game 3 between Brian Miller and Chris Wilkinson, both players at 4-1. So the winner of this game will not only win the match, but will likely cement themselves as one of our top 8 competitors.
Yeah, again, no guarantees, but these players are playing for a likely top 8 berth, and we're seeing the same game plan that the Zoroark decks are built around. Turn 1 Wonder Tag into Bridget. Started with the Wimpod this turn. Going to get some combination, depending on the context of his hand, of the basic Pokemon.
Yeah, so the thing is, Brian, 3 games in, and all 3 games he's gotten the turn 1 Bridget. This time he goes for that 2-2 split on the Wimpod with his Zorua. Does not want to get locked out of his Glycopods in this game. And now at this point, Chris is thinking, okay, well, I might not be able to take away your Glycopods, but maybe I can take away your Zoruas. Maybe if I limit you to a single trade, then you'll struggle to get that ideal setup that you always get. But at the same time, we see an Ultra Ball also in Brian's hand, so he could try to mitigate the damage that is dealt to him right there by finding another Zorua if he so chooses. Or actually, he's got one in his hand. So if he wants to, he can actually fill his bench up completely right now. It's an interesting decision point, and he chooses not to. He chooses just to pass the turn after retreating for the Tapu Lele. So Christopher now in a position where he gets to attack on his very first turn. Will he be able to do something with that?
Finally has the Zygarde, but it's just going to hit the discard pile off of an Ultra Ball. And yeah, we saw Brian's first turn be just about what you wanted. He has all the basics he needs. He got to retreat the Wimpod, so that's safely on the bench. And now it's on Christopher to try to match him here.
We see
of note, the Christopher's B-string was prized.
Right.
So
as well as the Tapu Lele.
Yeah, so that
Chris only plays one Tapu Lele, by the way.
Yes, those are unfortunate prizes for him, but he's still putting together a solid turn 1 here with the Rockruff and followed up by a Cynthia.
Very fortunate for Christopher to still have a supporter in his hand. If he didn't, then that Tapu Lele being prized could have been very crucial, very devastating to him. Finds a Remoraid
off of this. All right. Who needs Tapu Lele? We just have it all.
So Remoraid also hits the bench. So 3 games in a row, we've seen very similar setups from both players as they both get their desired bench Pokemon.
All right, and action is back on Brian now. An Ultra Ball. Gotta believe it's going to find a Zoroark just to start drawing cards.
Yeah, it's time for that Zoroark trade train.
Although I don't actually know if he has a supporter in his hand. I guess that's going to change some things. Yeah, it looks like he's actually going for Tapu Lele here.
Well, the Zoroark trade train may be a few seconds away from hitting here.
Wisely keeping that bench spot open, going for the Wonder Tag there. Did he take an N, I think?
Yep, he found an N with his Wonder Tag.
Well, it looks like he's considering what he wants to do with this Max Potion, if he even wants to use it at all. He is going to go ahead and play it, just heal the damage off of that Wimpod, the damage actually can come up, and that Tapu Lele is getting fully loaded. This is actually something you kind of see a fair amount in the Glycopod decks. Is you have to retreat that Wimpod early, but you don't want to retreat to your Zoroark. So you often send up a Lele, and then you're just like, oh, okay, well, I don't have literally everything here. I don't have the Guzma Energy Glycopod, so I'm just going to attach here and do a reasonable amount of damage and let this Lele take some hits.
Yeah, 90 damage is quite a bit. It sets you up for a potential 2-hit knockout against the Buzzwole. So not too shabby a turn here for Brian, as long as he gets his evolutions going. And right away we see a Zoroark, and we will draw a couple of cards with the first trade of the game. Well, and now we see that he still has a Ultra Ball in hand.
Yeah, just going to go ahead and Energy Drive. Doesn't want to commit anything with the Ultra Ball because it's not going to be too relevant this turn. Whatever Pokemon he gets wouldn't be really doing much for him.
Yeah, because that Tapu Lele is actually very threatening. You don't really fear a Guzma too much. You actually kind of fear the Tapu Lele more than you fear the Zorua or the Wimpods. Now, at the same time, being able to take a knockout against Zorua is always pretty nice. So we'll have to wait and see what kind of a play Christopher goes for as he fills up his bench right now and attaches an energy onto the bench. Buzzwole GX still kind of debating his play, decides to go for a Sycamore, getting rid of his Diancie.
Yeah, the Diancie Prism Star in the Lost Zone, so won't be joining us for this game.
Yeah, very interesting play here from Christopher. He chooses to not play the Diancie in the entire game, even though he definitely had the opportunity to. He valued his other Pokemon much more highly, wants to get a couple of Rockruffs in place so that he can secure himself a potential Lycanroc at some point. Has a Max Elixir in hand. Plenty of options here for Christopher.
Yeah, just deciding what to do with this Ultra Ball now. Not always obvious what cards to discard. Ultra Ball is the very, very heavily played item card, but does come at a real cost. And it looks like a Lycanroc GX is going to come into play.
So the Lycanroc is the card that's found, the Pokemon that's found through the Ultra Ball. And we still have a Max Elixir in hand here for Christopher. So if the Max Elixir can nail a Fighting Energy, which it looks like it doesn't, then we could have seen a potential Lycanroc start to get powered up, or even a benched Buzzwole with no damage on it. But instead we don't, because the Max Elixir missed. And now Lycanroc gets the Bloodthirsty Eyes up to Zorua, so he is going to prioritize the Zorua over the very threatening Tapu Lele there.
Yeah, he has this Buzzwole here that he can't move that already has damage on it. It's not immediately knocked out by the Tapu Lele where he would need to commit more energy to it. But he's just saying, all right, I'm going to eliminate this Zorua threat. I want to get the Lycanroc down, take a prize, cut you off of draw power hopefully later in the game, and make you commit more if you do want to go for this knockout.
And I think you do. I think if you're Brian, you do attach that Grass Energy onto the Tapu Lele for the knockout. Of course, it's never ideal to put 3 energy on a Tapu Lele that has 30 damage on it, but when you get to knock out a Buzzwole GX, then maybe you do go for it. Yeah, at the same time, you don't want to go down to 4 prizes, do you?
No, I think he is just going to go for it here. It just depends. All it depended on was what else he can do, but he doesn't see. The thing is that his other option would be doing like a big first impression or something, but oftentimes you want to save that first impression for when it could hit a Lycanroc. And again, as we saw last time, having your Glycopod active is a valuable thing, right? If you have a knockout another way, you don't want to waste the resources to use a first impression when you don't really need to.
Sure. But now at this point, we do see that Buzzwole, baby Buzzwole, will be able to one-hit KO this Tapu Lele with a Choice Band if it finds one.
Would you say an N coming down
strong
here?
Energy.
So N from Brian here. Not really going to affect either player too much, just giving Brian a lot more cards as he's still at 6 prizes, and then the best way to play an N for himself.
Wow. I actually see a B-string, by the way, in Christopher's hand.
Yeah, it looks like it was the prize he was most likely to take there. We see an Evo Soda come down. Put a Glycopod into play right away. And another one. So 2 Golisopod set up. He is taking a knockout here. He is putting himself to 4 prizes, of course, which turns on a lot of interaction from Christopher. But there's a knockout. 2 prizes closer to a potential top 8 here in Nashville.
Right. So Brian does go down to 4 prizes. Christopher still at 5, but Christopher could have a very explosive turn this turn. Remember, Tapu Lele just a strong energy away from being knocked out by Baby Buzzwole. And we do see a Beast Ring already in Christopher's hand, so we're going to see lots and lots of energy come into play this turn.
So there goes the Max Elixir. Here's the Beast Ring, loading up this Buzzwole GX, full of 3 energy now.
Yeah, the Max Elixir did find the energy and put it onto the Baby Buzzwole here, so Christopher kind of hedging some bets. Well, still needs a little bit of damage modification here in order to get a knockout on this Tapu Lele. Ultra Ball. We could actually see. Okay, so that is going to be an Ultra Ball for an Octillery. We could actually see a knockout onto a Zoroark if need be here by Christopher as well.
Yeah, it just depends because the Zoroark is kind of a prize that's sitting there the entire game.
Right.
So sometimes you want to eliminate your opponent's draw power. Sometimes if your opponent has an awkward setup, you want to hit the Zoroark. It's not like it's a totally crazy thing to do, but oftentimes you see just, okay, like you can just have the Zoroark, that's fine. I'm going to knock it out eventually pretty easily. Yeah,
we actually see him find the Choice Band, so he will be able to knock out the Tapu Lele instead. And finding that Choice Band did make his decision much easier, as now Tapu Lele is gone. And Christopher down 2-3 prizes, and Brian now a little bit behind here.
Yep, and Bridget getting traded away here.
The lone trade here from Brian. A very, very unexciting trade.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he has the grass energy in his hand. That's something he's actually kind of struggled with throughout this round. He is only playing 3 of them, of course. Not much room for a whole lot of basics when double colorless is so important.
Who do you feel is ahead at this point of the game?
It's going to depend on how this turn goes. I think the problem is that if Brian has a reasonable way to attack here, I don't know exactly what's going on. Okay, just Guzma for the artillery. If Brian has a reasonable way to attack here and get a big knockout, then I think Brian is solidly ahead, but I don't think that's actually what's happening here.
Well, Brian going for
I don't think he actually has anything. He just Guzma pass. He's just trying to stall, leave that artillery up. So I think Christopher is in a very solid position here as long as he can find a way to move this artillery. I'm not sure if his Guzma, how many Guzmas he's used or float stones or anything like that, but he needs to get this artillery out of this position, and then he can go from there.
All right, so he does hit with this Max Elixir. 3 energy now on this Buzzwole. Buzzwole ready to start swinging.
Really importantly, too, we saw this actually come up last time, too. Brian is stuck, or not stuck, but Brian still has 4 prizes remaining for multiple turns, which is not something you always see. So Sledgehammer is turned on once again.
Okay, so now the debate is, do I play my Lycanroc so I can give myself more draws? The answer to Christopher's answer was no. He does find a Professor Sycamore here, but he does have a Cynthia in hand, so the likely supporter being played here is going to be Cynthia. I don't know how many float stones he has left in his deck, but that's got to be the card he's looking for right now, especially once he missed on the Guzma.
I'm going to go ahead and spread his energy out a bit attached to that Lycanroc. Just kind of present a lot of threats here.
This could be a huge, huge draw here for Christopher. Needs that float stone really, really badly. Did Brian secure himself an additional turn here with that play? Or do we find a float stone? We're 2 cards away, 1 card away. No float stone.
Yeah, no float stone. He's already played supporter, so no Guzma, so no way to really move. He's going to take out some float stones, mad that he didn't draw him, and he just has to pass back.
So now Tapu Lele with no float stone of his own.
Puzzle off the top means that Brian has double puzzle in his hand as well.
Oh, wow. Double puzzle at a time. Now Brian is going to have a very exciting turn. Finds that second Zoroark GX.
I don't know how important... double puzzle is going to allow him to get a lot of things. I'm not sure exactly what the content of his hand is. I'm not sure how important the float stone was on the Tapu Lele. If Brian can react here and take a big knockout,
Quadruple puzzle at time, by the way.
Ooh,
how about that one?
All right. So a lot of options here, a lot that he can do. I suspect he'll be spending a little bit of time looking at his discard pile.
I think the number of options right now would like actually make a computer go mad.
Yeah, Guzma Grass is what I assume is like kind of plan A here with Puzzle of Time, just because that does allow him to get a knockout and go down to 2 prizes. And although Christopher has presented a lot of threats here, you see the fully built-up Buzzwole GX, the almost fully built-up Buzzwole, and the Lycanroc. Brian just has enough threats. He just has 2, right? So you can imagine a scenario where Guzma, first impression, something for the knockout, and then, okay, you knocked out my Gliscod, I don't care. First impression, good game. Even though he has so many threats, he doesn't matter because of those 2 Glycopods set up.
What an unbelievably exciting end to this very crucial round for both of these players. Keep in mind, guys, we actually have a timer. Our timer is actually 30 seconds ahead, by the way.
That's really big, actually. He did not even need to use the Guzma or a Guzma. He just took the counter catcher there.
Yeah, that counter catcher is really important there. Does not force the supporter out of Brian. Brian still has so many options available to him. What's he going to choose? He has been unable to decide so far. Remember, guys, timer is 30 seconds ahead, which could be crucial here.
All right, so he's taking a knockout, and he's in a very similar position as he was in Game 1, where he has 2 prizes remaining. He has the double puzzle in hand, so if this hand does not get disrupted, he has the win.
Beast Energy, and a huge and a really big end here from Christopher.
All right, so both players getting 2 or 3 cards. This has been a really intense match. I'm not sure.
I believe we have a knockout here from the Buzzwole GX, which, So this knockout will be bringing Christopher down to 1 prize. I'm not sure if time has been called yet or not. It's definitely coming close. Artillery Abyssal Handing for 2 additional cards. Finds a Max Elixir and a Strong Energies. 2 very nice cards to have, as well as a Guzma in hand.
I actually apologize. I misspoke. There's not a Lycanroc on the board, so the Glycopod, it's not going to be that simple to get the win here, actually. And this is actually going to be strange position here, as that's going to be a knockout. 1 prize remaining for Christopher, and let's see what.
How does Brian get out? How does Brian get out of this one, Kenny? We see a trade. 1 trade finds one of the puzzles. Now Field Blower trades away for a double colorless energy.
He has the Mew.
The Mew EX out of nowhere.
That's it.
Out of nowhere, the Mew EX.
To Brian Miller. How does he get out of it? He gets out of it with a Psychic type Pokemon called Mew EX, hitting Buzzwole for weakness. That's the game, and is that a top 8 for Brian Miller?
It most likely is, Kenny. That was a Mew EX out of nowhere. Just, wow. Out of nowhere, he gets the versatile for his own riotous beating.